When Zinx first came out, her concept was really quite cool. She was really reliant on this interesting mana mechanic. She was a ranged sort of bruiser fighter thing with the potential AoE skill shot stun. But the implementation really didn't work. Many people don't like her kit. I myself have struggled to find what kind of purpose she serves. What's her identity? This rework. Find out. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a Hero Rework video. I am Sylphin. A few things right off the bat. One, this is simply my own idea, my own personal idea. That is it. I'm just bringing this to you for you guys to mull over and give your own personal feedback on it. Two, hero passives are awesome. Hero passives are unique and provide an interesting aspect to the character, and I want to bring it back. So we're gonna have to come up with one for Zinx, and it was pretty obvious right off the bat. So I mean, it was kind of simple in her situation. Three, I love the idea of quest mechanics. If you do something that typically really accentuates the hero's inherent purpose and draft lobby pick, reason, and all that kind of stuff, then, well, you get rewarded, and that nature becomes empowered, usually in the form of their abilities. Four, I think that heroes need strong gameplay mechanics, strong gameplay reasons and purposes, identities, in order to have compelling gameplay. There should be a reason for you to pick Zinx in the draft lobby and go, ah, I need Zinx in this scenario because of these particular reasons. And then you have to bring that out in their kit, really make sure that they serve a purpose. Now, what is that for Zinx? She definitely had some kind of a identity crisis, and it is a bit weird. I think it could work though. What her niche and her theme that we're going for, we're running with it, is that she's a ranged, sustain, control bruiser. Bruiser, she's not as tanky as a tank, and deals less damage than a fighter, but deals more damage than a tank. So she deals more damage than a tank, but is not as tanky as a tank. She's ranged, does all of her things from afar. Sustain, she has tremendous sustain through her kit naturally, and control with her bad medicine and her ricochet stun. She definitely has the capability of controlling the battlefield and the enemy team. So we're running with that. We're not making her into a fighter. We're not reworking her entirely into some crazy melee assassin or something. Not doing that. We're just running with a range sustained control bruiser. And I think she was relatively close. She was relatively close to doing that. You just needed to make a few key changes and, of course, number changes as well. So her passive is quite simple. Zinx heals 40% of all damage dealt to her at the cost of various mana rates. Zinx also gains mana regen proportional at certain rates to her missing mana. This healing is not affected by blight. That was one key thing. One singular card I don't think should counter heroes that hard. I don't think that itemization should play that strong, like that, like you know, one card, one item on one hero, and boom, right? And boom, one hero is completely useless. I don't think that's healthy. That's healthy gameplay or healthy game design. So it's not affected by blight. She just gets it. I should almost not even call it healing. It's just reduces damage. Heals for 40% of all damage dealt at the cost of mana. That mana is varying rates. and the mana regen proportional to missing mana, varying rates, etc., etc. So that is her passive. Very, very, very simple. When she was first implemented, it was something like 50% healing, and it was too much. She was really, really strong and super meta, believe it or not. But reduce that a little bit to 40%, and there you go. That's her passive. Just naturally, that is her passive. You can't turn it on, you can't turn it off. So, if you really care about your mana, well, build some mana. Build some mana regen, but you probably don't want regen because she gets mana regen from mana. So, you really care about it. You're gonna have to position smartly and position and pick your fights appropriately, but which she didn't really need to do as much because she would just turn off her ultimate, right? So this is kind of adding something. Interestingly enough, you give it baseline, but it actually adds a bit of something. Healing is not affected by blight. Okay, so her kitty claws. Her main damage dealing ability, and this is where you can generate some of the threat in addition to her her AoE stun and her slow. So it's a toggle ability. It's pretty similar. Zinx toggles her pistol into empowered state. While empowered, her pistol shots cost mana per shot and apply ability damage over 3 seconds to enemies. Same damage over time effect. However, it also needed a bit of additional damage on hit. It honestly needed a little bit of additional damage on hit because you don't itemize too much damage. You needed a little bit of a initial impact. Hey, carry, it's like you just a little bit. You just needed a little bit. And I felt because otherwise the damage over time, while it did stack, it didn't technically stack, but the effects stacked on top of each other. It was never enough. It was never enough. You built damage, you weren't tanky enough. If you build tank, then dude, you were pretty much useless. So you just need a little bit of boom, just a little bit. Hey carry, attack me, stop, that sort of a thing. You need a little bit of that. Deals additional damage on hit after hitting kitty claws on targets already affected by kitty claws 30 times, or probably much more than that. Somewhere in the mid game, probably 50-60 times. So you have to hit kitty claws on a hero, and then subsequent shots after that add onto the passive, which is what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to stack up that damage over time effect to get a good amount of damage off of it and kind of synergize with itself. After doing that 30, 40, 50, 60 times, whatever that is in the mid game, kitty claws now applies a 30% slow for 0.2 seconds on hit. So it's a little bit of a micro slow. Not only is it damage, but it's a little bit of a micro slow, so that it synergizes with your team a little bit more. Zinx definitely is a team fight bruiser with the ricochet stun, ricocheting around. So it's kind of like a, micro slow, additional damage, micro slow, damage over time. There's a little bit of that threat. Hey, you, attack me, or rest of the team, focus me, Bruiser, dealing a little bit of damage, stuff like that. You need that. That's the whole point of the kitty claws. It's a kitty, meow, meow, right? It's not overly, damaging. It certainly is annoying, and eventually over time, those scratches add up. That's the idea. Now, ricochet stun, it was solid. It was very, very powerful if the enemy team was grouped up and you hit it. But the main issue with it was that it was too small of a projectile and it didn't move fast enough. Wildly inconsistent, and while I think the pros would even agree that it needed a bit help, it needed to be a touch easier, just a little bit more consistent to hit with. It was... That's my opinion anyways, and I think others would agree with me as well. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, except it just has a bigger and faster moving projectile. Just a little bit faster, and a bit bigger. just so it's a little bit just more consistent. Not necessarily easier, but it will turn out to be easier, but just more consistent. As you like, there you go, right? It's a ranged skill shot, not this slow moving thing that you just hope hits somebody. Anyways, that was the main problem in my opinion. Hopefully that fixes that with Ricochet stun. Otherwise, it was very impactful in groups and scenarios, and you hit it. Great. Bad medicine. Bad medicine was also kind of fine, except one small little thing. It's the same thing. Zinx charges her gun and fires downward. Projectile hits the ground, creates a field of energy, dealing ability damage over time, and, applies movement speed slow for 2 seconds on a direct hit. So as soon as you boom, the first initial wave of the ability applies a slow. However, I always felt that it's a AoE field effect. So what you want, the intention of it is, hey, this area is cut off. I'm controlling this area, and the ability damage was so low that nobody cared about it. They would just walk right through it. It was insignificant. So as a bruiser, whose main source of damage was the kitty claws anyways, make bad medicine have a lingering slow when you touch it. So that's what I've done. Bad medicine leaves an area of effect that deals ability damage over 4 seconds, and also applies the movement speed slow from the original hit onto any enemies that touch it. So it's kind of like the phase Bramble Patch, except it lingers even when you're not touching it. The phase Bramble Patch, it only slows you when you're in it, but this, if you touch it, you're still slow for 2 seconds, even if you leave that area. So it's a much better zoning tool that applies a little bit of tickle damage, but slows people as well, which is what she's this kind of ranged control bruiser thing, right? And it just needs to be a little bit more prevalent. And I think that adds that layer to it that it was missing this whole time. Now her ultimate. Her ultimate before gave her the whole shield, regeneration mana, reduced abilities, reduced damage, blah blah blah. But now, if that's in her passive, what is it? Well, it's an empowered state. It's an empowered state. That, as a bruiser, the main point is to, yes, deal a little bit more damage than a tank, but just be a nuisance, be a threat to high damage and enemy high damage heroes or peel for your team. So how does this help? Well, it's an active ability where Zinx now heals for 60% of all damage dealt to her instead of 40. So we're increasing that by 50% at half the mana cost, so that your mana, if you're being focused, like that Zinx was right there by 4 enemies of the there. Your mana bar doesn't go poof. It doesn't instantly disappear, right? So you now heal for 60% instead of 40 at half the mana cost, and you gain 0.5, 0.6, 0.7 additional damage on her next kitty claws for each point of healing. That'll take a little bit. It's too much to explain in a little tool tippy sort of thing there, but if say I take a whole bunch of damage with my dirty healing. Say I take 100 damage. Well, 0.7 of that, so 70 damage is applied onto my next kitty claws. I shoot kitty claws, it gains 70 damage. I take 100 more damage after that. I get 70 additional damage on the next kitty claws. Say after that kitty claws, I take 50 damage. Now all of a sudden I only get 35 additional damage on my next kitty claws. So if you kind of build up this pool of extra damage on your kitty claws, and then you expend it on a kitty claws shot. So you're kind of getting, the more that somebody damages you, the more you damage them in return, fulfilling that bruiser role. Hey, carry, yeah, keep attacking me. I'm wasting your time, but I'm also dealing damage to you and not allowing my team to kind of follow up, and etc. Dirty healing, that lasts for 9 seconds. Not a whole team fight, not a prolonged team fight, but a significant portion of the meat of a team fight. for sure. 90, 80, 70-second cooldown, so she can use it fairly often. Fairly often. It's not a 100-second cooldown or something like that. Fairly often, as it does just amplify her kit and what she does. What do you guys think of this? What do you guys think of this? She's really tough. Her identity is really hard. A ranged tank, ranged bruisers are really hard. That's why there's not very many of them in other MOBAs, is like in Heroes of the Storm and Smite, anyways, that I'm very familiar with. There's not much, and there's a reason for that. They're hard. The ranged nature plays inherently against the fact that they're a bruiser or, you know, more tanky and want to take damage, want to get in people's faces, and body block and all that kind of stuff. So they're hard. And Zinx, just a few little things. Kitty Claws dealing additional damage on hit. Ricochet stun being a little bit bigger and faster moving projectile. Bad medicine applying a lingering slow on people that retouch the field. That really helps. And then the dirty healing just empowering her damage mitigation passive there. I think this does it. Numbers are very, very crucial for Zinx, and that requires testing and balancing. Numbers, very, very crucial, but I think this concept, at least, gets her more in line with her niche and her theme. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think about this neat Zinx, my own personal rework for Zinx. Please like the video if you like it, dislike it, share it with the community, guys. Of course, subscribe. Pardon me. If you guys like this content, let me know down in the comments and hit the bell notification button to be notified of future content. Until next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.